Bowling with the Theft.
I encourage you to get fast.
Your bowling stories.
All things the game of bowling.
Every week.
Helping bowlers.
The hand collapses down.
Live.
And I'm going to try to bowl the best I can.
2,000 subscribers. 2,000 subscribers.
I want to challenge Chad Nelson.
Tom Corbett.
Jason Belmonte.
Let's do this. This is Bowling with the Pfaff.
Well, hey everyone, good Wednesday evening, and welcome to another episode of Bowling with the Pfaff, a platform for you to share your unique bowling story live on our YouTube channel. I was telling our guest earlier, I'm working with a little different setup tonight, different camera, a new piece of gear here, so I'm going to apologize in advance if I mess any of this up, but I'm hoping that the wonderful content and the superb guest that we have tonight makes up for it. Of course, tonight is kind of an interesting night in bowling. It is Agent Ong Eve. If you follow big-time scratch tournaments across the country, then you've probably heard of the Agent Ong Open before. This one is called Agent Ong Strikes Back. It's Carl Ong's second go at just a tremendous scratch tournament in Chandler, Arizona. They are going to get underway with early bird squads coming up tomorrow. Then they've got more qualifying squads and sweepers on Friday, and then even more qualifying squads on Saturday, 3 more in fact, followed by a Desperado squad Saturday night and the finals on Sunday. $10,000 guaranteed to the winner of that tournament, and it always draws big names. I say always like it's been here for years and years. This is actually just the second annual. But Matt Zweig came away with the win last year, and certainly I would bet that he's looking to defend his title this time around without seeing a roster. I don't know for sure, but you can bet that there are going to be some big names in that field. And of course, 2 different action matches, one of them a doubles match involving one of our previous guests, Matt Jones, and another one involving 2 previous guests, Brooklyn Rob Pirashad, and Robert Smith, Maximum Bob. Both have appeared on the show. They are going head-to-head for $1,500. So exciting stuff going on in Arizona. Best of luck to Carl Ong and his staff on running another fabulous tournament down there. Well, speaking of tournaments, Matt Payne of Minnesota took home $1,500 and the second jewel of the Larson Siding, Windows, and Roofing Quintuple Crown as he won the Champions Pro Shop Open a little earlier this month. You saw it live here on Bowling with the Pfaff as he defeated Brandon Cryer 242-187 in the championship match after leading the field in qualifying and after the 4-game advancers round. Now, afterwards, Payne told me he didn't really have to adjust much over the course of the day. He kept his angles in front of him, really just kind of piped it off the corner and carried well and made good shots. But he did end up making a move at the beginning of the championship match.
Made a ball change in the match, in the title match here, based off of what Brandon was doing. I mean, Brandon was striking a lot.
Yeah.
And I knew I needed something a little more pop. I mean, the other ball I was throwing, the Zen Soul, I knew I was going to get 2-0. 2-0 was almost guaranteed. I felt like I needed more. Yeah. And I threw a phase 2 down there, and it shaped really well. And I went, well, I still almost didn't go to it. And I told myself, well, at this point, what do you got to lose? You have to have a good game.
And he certainly did. He won that event. Congratulations to Matt. That is the second jewel of the Quintuple Crown. You can see here William Jones took the first one, the Southway Open in St. Cloud, Minnesota, just a week prior to that Champions Pro Shop Open in Owatonna, Minnesota. And, of course, with the Quintuple Crown, you got to have 3 more events, right? Lacrosse Open coming up November 23rd at Playmore Lanes in La Crosse. Then they head to Holiday Match Games December 21st. Once again at Colonial Lanes in Rochester, Minnesota, and a TBD event on February 1st of 2025 at the new J. Mo's in Faribault, Minnesota. Exciting stuff in that Quintuple Crown and great competition. So be sure and check it out. You can always relive all the action on the channel. All the videos are there. Just look for that Quintuple Crown playlist and you'll find all of them. Don't forget about the merch store, etsy.com/shop/bowling with the Pfeff Co. for all your bowling with the Pfeff merchandise, hoodies, t-shirts. Get ready for the holiday season. It'll be here before you know it. You can find some great stuff on the Etsy store. And now, a word from our sponsor.
Handmade salsa is great, but it's such a hassle. Cutting yourself, the constant waiting, burning yourself. Oh, look at that mess. Raise your snack standards. Chip Magnet Salsa.
You don't need to deal with that mess that homemade salsa can cause. Just head over to your grocery store and pick up some Chip Magnet. Or if it's not in a store near you, you should probably tell them about it. They should probably have it at those stores. Or just go online. Chipmagnet.com, chipmagnetsalsa.com, I should say, is the place. If you enter this promo code BWTF2024, you get 25% off your purchase of $30 or more with no limit. Makes a great holiday gift or just a snack for football Sunday. Chip Magnet, raise your snack standards. And, of course, thank you to all the folks at Chip Magnet for supporting Bowling with the Pfeff. Looks like we've got Bowling for Life 365 in the chat already. It's Connor. Says he hopes I'm doing great tonight. Certainly am. His birthday is coming up on October 20th. He's going to be 21 years old. Glad to hear that. Hope you have a happy birthday there in Virginia, Connor. Says he's been trying to watch the live streams on replay when he can't make it to the live because he wants to keep supporting the channel. He says we have a lot of amazing content. Certainly, that includes the episode with him. That was done, several months ago now, but I have fond memories of having him on the show. And he's got a great point. If you can't make it live, check it out on replay. It is on demand, always there for you, really for as long as YouTube is around. And let me tell you, it's going to be here for a while. Well, our guest tonight is well known as a grower of the sport through his work with schools in and around Plano, Texas. He's also worked in the bowling industry for years and has accomplished plenty on the lanes as well. Luis Benavides is from Plano, and he is joining us live tonight in a show that we are calling Hookup. He clarified to me that he is not a Texas graduate, but one heck of a Longhorns fan. Luis, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Pfeff. Happy to be here.
Yeah, happy to have you on. Now, I should preface everything tonight by saying that Luis's brother, Tim, was in our area for quite a few years. Beat me up and down Wagner's lanes and Bullwinkles through the years. So, you know that. But, I also reached out to him before we went on. And I want to start with this because, it's kind of interesting, I think. He says, your nickname is Loft Monster and that you like to lift it to the arrows. Is that true?
True. That is very true. Make the lane shorter.
Yeah. So it's on purpose?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah, just make the lane shorter. Just, work on that back end.
Yeah. Okay. I imagine he gives you a hard time about it because he gives me a hard time about stuff.
Everybody. And just to clarify, Tim's my cousin. He's not my brother, but he's closer to me than sometimes my brother. So I love Tim. He's a great, great guy. And he came down to Texas, early 80s, and he worked for me at Allen Bowl, and he became a great bowler. He hadn't bowled much at all, but he became a great bowler, a student of the sport. And then when he went back to Eau Claire and Rice Lake area, he really bowled well. Great guy, great bowler. But I told him, don't emulate me. Do your own thing. And he has more of a Ballard style. He's low. He got a long slide, very smooth.
Yeah,
really smooth.
Fantastic physical game. And like I said, he's taken more straight up head-to-head matches for me than I'd like to admit.
That's great.
Yeah, let's kind of get into your story because I feel like this is one of them that has, multiple kind of angles and facets through it. But, as always, I'd like to start with how you got started in the sport because it's always different for all of us, right?
You bet. My dad was the secretary of a full house league, 32 lanes at All-Star Lanes in San Antonio. My mom worked the nursery, and he did everything by hand back then as a league secretary only could. So they bowled all the time. So I was the kid running through there. Can I have a quarter? Can I have a quarter? You know, playing the pinball machines and everything else I could get my hands on. So at an early age, he got me in when I was 6 years old. We started bowling league there and had some wonderful coaches, got to watch some wonderful bowlers. And it just stuck. Grew up watching greats like Joe Vito, Jimmy Rivera, Mark Waldrop, Carlos Castaneda, some wonderful, really high-end bowlers here in San Antonio. And so I got the bug. I kept score a lot of times, and then started bowling a whole lot and had a pretty good youth career, you know, junior career. So that's how I got started.
Yeah. Tell me about that center. I mean, you know, having a full house full of league, I mean, that was, you know, that, as we all know, that was commonplace years ago. It's a little more rare now, depending on where you're at. But what was the scene there like? I mean, what was the energy like? Because it had to be something to, you know, kind of reel you in.
It was great. It was AMF center. It wasn't an AMF owned center. It was privately owned, but it had those AMF diamond fin masking units. Everything was orange. The gutters were orange. Back then, it was just full. We had double shifts, 6 o'clock and 9 o'clock. Double shift of full house, 32 lanes. So I watched my parents bowl, and they just loved it. And they had so many friends. The social aspect of it was just amazing. So they had these little 6-pound balls that were black with a big yellow star. And I remember getting one of those as the house ball and just twisting it up as much as I could because every kid wants to hook it, right? So we did that. And then finally I got a little instruction and got a little better. And I was okay at other sports, but I never good enough to compete at anything else. So bowling was something that I had a little bit of success with. And then I got some great coaches and then things took off. And I did very well as a youth bowler. So it made it really fun. You know, we bowl Saturday mornings, we go bowl travel league, we come back, bowl youth adult, and then try to get a tournament on Sunday, you know. So we did a lot. And my parents were so wonderful about letting me bowl everything I wanted to bowl. Luckily, I was the baby of the family, so they were on coast mode by the time they got to me, you know, and they had a little more money by the time they got to me. And I took full advantage of that for sure.
Yeah, that always helps. You know, I remember growing up, you know, and being coached by my dad. Maybe it was just because it was my dad, but I felt like I wasn't all that coachable as a kid. You know, you don't listen to your dad. Tell me about, you know, kind of your attitude toward that as you were getting that instruction. Were you on board from the jump, or did you need to kind of buy in to what your coaches were telling you?
Actually, all I had to do was watch the older kids because, like I said, I grew up watching Joe Vito. If you don't know Joe Vito Benrostro, I mean, he's a stud, always has been, still competes at a high level. And so you just watch it. For me, what I did was just watch good bowlers and tried to emulate them. And there's a guy named Jimmy Rivera, and he lofted it quite a bit. He would get the ball down the lane and not up and down, but more of like an airplane landing, just real direct from the foul line to the arrows in a direct line, still in the air. And that just eliminated all the heads. And back then, you know, the heads were an issue because it wasn't synthetic, you know, and, you know, they get tore up. So it just was easy to emulate that style. But I got very fortunate, and we had some great coaching. I remember my coach, her name was Ann Elliott. More than one occasion, she grabbed me off the approach by the ear and took me to the back office and let me have it because I was acting a fool, whether it was kicking a foul line or, you know, yelling or whatever. So I always had that competitive but immature attitude, and she got me straightened out to get my head right. And then I started getting some pretty good instruction from some of the older kids that were just good. But the main thing that I guess did it was I was allowed to bowl all I wanted. So I could go up there and bowl and bowl and bowl. And I had a couple of friends that would get up there with me, and we just bowl until our fingers bled. And when I was 15, I got a job at the San Antonio Sports Palace, another center that was part owned by Jamie Brooks, if you know him. He's well known in Texas as a bowling proprietor. And so you could bowl for free. So all of my buddies that worked there, we'd get up there, get out of school at noon, and we'd go to, because we didn't go until 4, we'd go up there around 2 and we'd bowl. And when we got off at midnight, we'd bowl a little bit more. And then, so a lot of games that really, really helped my game for sure.
Yeah. You mentioned doing some tournaments through that period too. What was the tournament scene like for youth players in your area?
Well, it was pretty good. We had high school bowling back then, which was very rare. It wasn't very well organized, but there was about 5 schools that had teams. So we would compete against them, and that was cool because we had a bowling club in the school, and we were acknowledged by the school as a bowling club, which was really, really cool. But the competition wasn't there. The competition was in the other tournaments that were either in Austin, New Braunfels, San Antonio. So Robert Lawrence was the guy to beat out of Austin, and still the guy to beat, as you know. The guys older than me were always better, but once all those guys graduated, myself and 3 or 4 others did well, but it was always trying to beat Robert, and that just wasn't going to happen on a regular basis. But the tournament scene was cool and very competitive. And then, once I got out of high school, a lot of people were, hey, want to try the regional tour or at least or anything like that. And it was very obvious to me that I would make a check every week by having a job, not trying to bowl for money. So that was the smarter route to go.
Yeah, that's a good point. Was having competed against Robert and knowing him from your area, what was it like to see him go on to have that success? I believe he won a U.S. Open along the way.
Sure, just cheering him on the whole way. It's so great because anytime one of our own would be on TV, the whole bowling center just pretty much shut down, and we're all watching whoever's on. And so, yeah, everybody's cheering for Robert and hoping everything worked out for him. A very, very successful career.
Yeah, and still in the business, I believe, KR Strike Force. So
for sure,
a big name in our sport. Tim mentioned that you got him into bowling. He accuses you of taking credit for his high scores because you have the same last name and no one knew who he was.
It's great all the time. There's Benavides and people would come up to me, hey, I saw you bowl great. Yeah, thanks. And it wasn't me. It was always Tim, because I just didn't bowl competitively much after, in my 25, 26 years old, I pretty much stopped bowling competitively. But Tim was, starting to really rock and roll about that time. And believe me, I rode that horse hard. You bet. That was me. That was me. It wasn't me.
So you said you kind of stopped competing in your mid-20s. Did something, prompt that?
The body starts falling apart. I had a wrist surgery, had some knee problems, things like that. But really, I just needed to focus on my work. By the time I was in my mid-20s, I started running bowling centers as a general manager. And so it's just hard to do both. I stopped bowling league because when you're running bowling centers, you're nights and weekends. And if you're doing it well, you're there on nights and weekends. And so that's what I did. I focused. All my friends were shooting 300 every night. I called them professional league bowlers because they all bowled 3 or 4 nights a week, and they were all, ringing up these iron scores, and I didn't. And it's just part of the deal. I wanted to make a career in bowling, not as a bowler.
Yeah. Tim's joining us live here. Says there were a lot of late night bowling nights at Allen Bowl. Perks of working at a bowling center.
Tell you what, having the keys to wherever I worked my whole life has been a whole lot of fun. When I was in Kerrville, we had racquetball courts, a skating rink, a workout gym, and a restaurant, and beautiful, little bowling center. And oh man, after hours, when you have the keys, you and your friends can enjoy that kind of thing. So wherever I was, Tim is right. We did a lot of stuff after hours that was very enjoyable.
Yeah,
for sure.
Tim said he remembered you going 11 in a row for 299 at the OCs one year.
Yeah, that was in Toledo, Ohio. We were bowling the nationals, and I got the front 11, and I just went light swisher, and they all went left, but the 7 didn't go down. So it was fun, and I was really, really happy about it because that was my first honor score at a national, on a national level. It was just, and I wasn't bowling that much back then, and it was just really, really cool. Very, very happy. I have a picture on the wall. As a matter of fact, it's right over this shoulder, right there. That picture right there. That's me. And I don't know if you can zoom in on that, but that picture is at nationals, and that ball is well past the arrows, and it's still in flight. And so So yeah, it's a lot of fun, man. A lot of fun to, a lot of people will be disappointed that they didn't get that last one. Not me. I was happy to have it.
Yeah.
Very happy. I understand how rare it is to get that opportunity, and I understand that it's not easy to do. And so I was there, and it happened, and I was very, very pleased.
Yeah, a lot closer than a lot of us get when we go to nationals. Oh, there he goes. The picture is right over his left shoulder. So you share a brain as well as the last name. You talked about running the centers, and it's it's a job that I feel like it takes a combination of skills, right? You got to be competitive because not only are there other centers in your area, but there's people watching movies and there's people going mini golf and other ways to spend your time. You have to have a love of the sport. You got to have some patience, maybe a little empathy. Why were you a good fit in that kind of role? Did you feel like you had all those skills?
Well, yes and no, depending on who you asked. I was really great, and some would say I was horrible. It just depends on who you're talking to, because all of your customers are important, and they all are different. You have to treat them differently. Same with employees. Same with your team. Everybody, no two people are alike, so they respond to different styles. I'm definitely a marketing guy. I like people. I enjoy competition. I knew the game inside and out. I remember as a kid, whenever I go to the counter as a little kid, sometimes I wouldn't be acknowledged as a customer, and that really rubbed me wrong. And so I, from very early on, I always kept that in my mind, that every customer, regardless of age or anything, they matter. Their opinion matters and their voice matters, and they are a customer. They're not always right, but they are always the customer. That's something I've lived by. And so, I enjoy the people, and I want to make sure that they have a good time. So I think with that as my focus, I did okay in the industry. But the marketing aspect of it is for sure very important. You got to think outside the box. Your job is to drive traffic through the door. So that's what we want to do, right? So when they're there, we got to have something to sell them once you get them in. So you better have some stuff. When I worked for Neil Huffauer, he said, holidays come every year. If you're not prepared 3 months prior to that, you're missing the boat. You better have your strategy in place, so when they come in, you've got something to put in their hand so they're ready to buy. So I enjoyed that very much. And of course, working with all the young people was great. I had some young people and some older people that worked for me for many, many years. Lifelong friends that way, for sure. And Tim remembers that part. It was hard because a lot of times it's like sink or swim. Get out there. I think one of my friends, Bruce Thomas, the first night he was there, I had an emergency. I had to go home to see my mom. She was in the hospital, and I just threw him the keys. And it was his first day. Wow. But he knew what he was doing, and he handled it just fine. But sometimes you just got to step up, and Tim certainly did. Tim was a great, great employee.
Yeah. Your cousin, Tim, remembers that you introduced him to a lot of people when he lived there. Would you say that's because you're a people person, or you just knew a lot of bowlers?
I don't know. It pissed me off because they all like him a lot more than they like me. I guarantee you that. He's a wonderful guy, and everybody likes Tim. So, yeah, he became much more popular than me. I don't know. I had a pretty good circle of friends just because I ran a bowling center. You're automatically going to know a lot of people. And so Tim just fit right in. And, he's blood, and we're a lot alike in a lot of ways. And people really, really have gravitated towards him, for sure.
I'm glad he saved this for the live chat. He said that you worked the heck out of him.
He did. His name was Slash, because some days it was mechanic / concourse guy / desk / snack bar guy. Whatever it took, he did it. He did it all.
Yeah, you got to have a gadget guy, right? All right. So you probably had a similar challenge to the one that a lot of center managers and proprietors try to take on these days. And that's, how do you cater to the recreational bowlers, the birthday parties, the fun leagues, things like that, and the serious players, the scratch competitors, the guys and ladies who are really looking to, get out there on some challenging conditions, go up against the best in the area. How do you do it? How do you please everybody? I know you can't please everybody, but how do you do your best to keep those two?
You pick the ones that are going to bring you more revenue. Number one. So if you're in an area that has tons of scratch bowlers, go ahead and cater to them. But most of us don't. Most of us, they're a smaller segment. So you have to have something for them. You have to have scratch tournaments. You have to have, in today's world, sports shots, things like that keep them challenged. But the majority of your revenue, if you're trying to, make money, which we all are, you're trying to drive traffic through the door. So that happens with families mostly. Families, corporate events, things like that. That's why you see all these places go into, hybrid centers where they're put a wall up on lane 8 and they have 7 lanes of, private stuff for FEC type stuff for corporates, and for corporate parties, they make a lot of money that way. But you just have to be a chameleon. On one day, your scratch bowlers, big time tournament, high scoring conditions, or even challenging, and everybody's geared towards doing that, servicing them. You have to move furniture. You have to do all kinds of things. And the next day, hey, it's just like a professional arena. You see them tear down the hockey and put the basketball court over it. It's the same thing. The next day, we may need to be planning for a big corporate event. So you've got to be flexible. You've got to have your people trained, and they got to be willing to be both, because some people, they expect certain things. I went to a center the other day, and I'm in there with I'm in an FEC, and we're doing an event for a bunch of teachers, but we're competing. And pin fell down. I need a respot. We don't do respots. Hello. Okay. Because they're an FEC. We don't do respots because they're not used to anybody walking in with a bowling bag. All their customers are open play. So it's a different animal, and you got to be prepared for whatever comes your way. So.
Sure. And for those who aren't aware, FEC is Family Entertainment Center. So kind of on one side of what we're talking about here.
Yeah. Sure.
Tell me about the centers that you ended up managing. How many of them were there? Where were they? And what did you learn along the way?
Oh, man, for sure. I remember being at the Sports Palace. I was in the back. I worked as a pin setter mechanic, as a pin chaser, and the goal is always just to get up front. I want to be a CSR and then hopefully work the desk and maybe a night manager and all that. And then after watching all the older guys in their 40s and 50s and 60s run the bowling center, I realized very early, if I just keep my nose clean, I'll have a future in this industry, because I know what a customer wants. And so at the Sports Palace, I just watched and I said, as long as you don't get in trouble, you're going to be fine. And so that's all I did. So I went from the Sports Palace, went to San Pedro Bowling Center. At a young age of 20, I decided I've had enough of the bowling business, and I got out of it for about a year and a half. Drove a truck for a while, and then went back to the bowling industry. So from there, I went to Kerrville, Texas, small 16-lane center. It's called Heart O' the Hills, and it was really small. But I got to live through that transformation of adding on a skating rink and the racquetball courts and a sports workout place. So that was very educational to deal with contractors and things like that while trying to run the bowling center. So then from there, I came back to Dallas, and I went to work for Allen Bowl as a youth director. And then things worked out to where I became the manager and then the general manager. So I learned a lot there in the early 80s. Then I went to Plano Super Bowl for a year until they moved me to DeSoto, which is South Dallas, totally different demographic, but 40-lane center. And it was great. We had the was it LPPT back then, the women's tour? I don't remember what the initials were, but John Summer ran that. And they were in DeSoto. And so I got that experience, which was wonderful. Then Neil Huffauer's group, Triangle Bowl, or ARC out of California, bought that center. So then I took a 4-year educational tour with Neil. So Neil's a tough guy to work for, smartest man I ever worked for. I don't know if you know him, but he started Main Events down here in the Southwest. Great operator, but very, very difficult to work for. And so I just looked at that as an education, and I did my 4 years and I got out. So then I went to a small town in Terrell and worked there for about 6 years, and then the reason I got out of there was and out of that business is I remember it was a Saturday night, and I'm arguing with this hillbilly over how many games they bowled. He was drunk to the point he wanted to fight me as the desk man. And there's 5 of them, and he says, "We bowled 3 games. I'm paying for 3 games." I said, "Well, actually, you bowled 15," but he didn't get that, and so that was kind of my last straw. And I said, "You know what? It's time to try something else." But I learned a lot, and I enjoyed all those times, and I think I did okay at all of them. So I feel good about my bowling career there.
Yeah, with so many centers and so many different areas that you ran and worked for, do you think that the different centers really across wherever, across city, state, America, are more different than we think or more similar than we think?
I think they're very similar. Like you said earlier, we're competing against everybody in the entertainment business. And now with the computer, people don't even want to leave the house. And our young people don't even communicate with each other anymore. They don't talk. Everything's on the phone or looking at a keyboard. So, and then that's old man get off my lawn talking there, but it's a part of reality as far as the social aspect of our game. And I think regardless of the size of the center or what kind of center it is, you're trying to drive traffic through your door and you're trying to sell them something when they're there. And if they can, it's all about the ride home, whether it's think about your children when you go to pick them up after church and you're going home. How was it? After camp, how was it? Your night at the skating rink, how was it? It's all about that ride home. There's only 2 answers, either good or bad. And so our industry is in that battle. And so our hope is that we entertain them, that they have a good experience and they want to come back. So that ride home is a positive discussion. And as long as we're doing that, and it can be done a million different ways, depending on if you're in a big town, little town, new center, old center, corporate center, or mom and pop. We're all in the same business. So I think they're very, very similar.
Yeah, I've asked that question so many times on the ride home.
Yeah, you bet.
It's a force of habit, but you're right. It's important because what he tells me, that's
determines what you're doing next week.
Determines where my money's going next week. Yeah, for sure. So when you got out after that pointed conversation with the hillbilly, what did you do?
Don't mind saying that. He was a hillbilly. Okay, go ahead. What happened after that?
What did you do next?
Well, I called my friend that worked at Plano Super Bowl. His name was Don Gano. He was the general manager at the time. And I had recently been divorced, and I needed more time with my family, my son, than I did working. So money value went down, time with my son went up. And so I said, I just need something to keep me alive. So he let me be his youth director for a while. And I started going to schools because I wanted to drive traffic through the door. So I said, I'm going to go to schools and see if I can't knock on some doors. So I built, we had gotten a call from a school, a small school in town here called Christie Elementary. And every October, these schools have these Halloween carnivals or some kind of fall carnival. So they always call bowling centers, do you have any free games that we can hand out to our kids, something like that? I said, yeah, I do. But as a matter of fact, if you'll let me, I'll man a booth. So I had my mechanic make me a short lane of 2 4x8 sheets of paper, sheets of plywood. We made some bumpers and I built a box to catch the pins on the other end. So we go to this school, we set it up on a couple of tables, and we got kids throwing a 6-pound ball and a full rack of pins and knocking them down. And that's where, for me, I started going, these kids, if they're exposed to the game, they're going to get the fever. Some of them will, for sure. And so it was the beginning of my career with Bowler's Ed. Years after that, a friend of mine named John Summer, who's out of Rockford, Illinois, owns Don Carter Lanes there, and another company called Metro Ltd. He makes these. This is a plastic bowling pin. This is a rubber ball with 2 sets of holes on it. This is an amazing curriculum written by a middle school teacher, and wonderful curriculum supplied by BPA, and that is the birth of Bowler's Ed. So what this equipment does, it allows you to go into schools and teach kids how to bowl. We've got degreed educators all across the country that want to teach our game for us, and we're not utilizing them near enough. So, so that kind of segues into Bowler's Ed for me. What I was able to do was talk to PE coaches, and because every bowling center wants to go through the front door of a school, knock, 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 can I have exposure to your kids? And as they should, they say no, right? No, you're a commercial business. You just want access to our kids to sell them something. And they're correct. We all want that. So when you go to the PE coach and you say, I want to help educate your kids, I want to loan you some equipment, the outlook is totally different. The door swings wide open. So quit trying to go through the front door and go through the gym door. This is a key. It will open every door of every elementary you ever go visit, because PE coaches are always looking to teach something. It's normally a 2-week unit. They're either teaching soccer, they're teaching basketball, they're teaching golf, they're teaching everything. Archery, they do it all. There's even a yo-yo segment that they do. It's cup stacking, everything. So why not bowling, right? So when you go to a PE coach and you say, hey, I've got this equipment, you're welcome to use it. I've got this awesome curriculum. Do you think we could work that out? Let me go get approval from the principal. So now they're asking for you instead of ABC Bowling Center asking. You're going to get a yes every time. And so it's a wonderful, wonderful program, but it's a well-kept secret. So ask me anything you want about that, and I'll be happy to help.
Yeah. Let's kind of get into that, because I remember my high school years. They'd bus us to the bowling center, for a few weeks. Does what you're doing translate into what I was exposed to? How does that translate? Is there a common denominator besides the fact that they've got bowling balls in their hands and they're knocking down pitches?
Yeah. You have to have a couple of things. You have to have a good operator. 3 things you need. A good operator, so somebody that doesn't have blinders on can see this is our future. So that's huge, because you're going to have to give away some lineage. The next thing you need is somebody inside the district that thinks this is a worthwhile thing. And every PE coordinator does think it's a worthwhile thing. Some of them are more responsive than others. They're humans just like everybody else. Some people work, some people don't work. Some people just get by, just like in every industry in the world. Most of them care, and they want to do things that will expose kids to lifetime sports, and we check that box. We're a hand-eye coordination. We're an underhand toss group, and we fit all those boxes that they need done. Plus, if they want to bowl at a high school level or anything like that, we reach the disengaged kid. Lots of times they have students who are in PE. One of the things I always tell operators is don't go asking the athletic director. That's the wrong person to ask when you're trying to get in the school system. You want to talk to PE coaches, because athletic director is kind of like the scratch bowler, okay? There's some great scratch bowlers and there's some great athletes in your school, but the majority of the kids are not great athletes. The majority of kids that are falling through the cracks and looking for something to latch onto. And there's a bunch of them out there. So let's approach those people and get those families involved. Talk to them about the scholarship programs that we offer and how they can compete for their school and possibly collegiately. And so it's pretty good sell when you go that route. So as far as getting kids to the bowling center, from the classroom to the bowling center, here's something I did. And we've had a lot of success with it. I called it a 5th grade tournament. So I was talking to my P coordinator one day, and I said, how? Because I was in the class, I used to go to the elementary and teach the kids how to bowl. And there's, on average, 90 to 100 kids at every grade level, and there's 6 of them. So every school, that's 600 kids. So here I am talking to a bunch of PE coaches at their staff development day right before their school starts. So I lost my train of thought when you threw that picture up there. I'm so sorry.
I was hoping that went along with what you were saying.
No, that's okay. So what I was trying to do is get them to move from the classroom to the bowling center, right? So I'm asking my PE coordinator, what can I do to do that? And she says, well, let's how about we have a tournament? And I said, well, tell me about that. So she says, are you familiar with hoop shoot? And I said, no. And so hoop shoot is a free throw contest that almost every elementary participates in. And it's put on by the, I think it's the Lions. It's not the Kiwanis. It's the Lions. It might be the Rotary Club that puts that on. And so it's a free throw. Everybody's got a basket in their gym, right? So each grade level competes and they try to get the best free throw shooter in their school and their grade level, right? So then they get a winner for the school. They compete against the other schools in their region. If they advance, they can go to state and then even nationals, and all sponsored by the Rotary Club, which is really cool. She said, we can do that with bowling. Why don't we try that? And I said, well, what do you need? Well, it's got to be on a Saturday. So now I got to go to Jamie Brooks and say, hey, I need free bowling on a Saturday during the fall. You know, that's no operator wants to do that. Get out of here. You crazy? But I worked for Jamie since I was 15 years old. So he trusted me. He says, tell me about it and let's talk at least. And then once I explained everything to him, he goes, heck yeah, we're doing it. And basically what it is, it's a tournament where every elementary school in your school district, and in our area, we had 44 elementaries. So we had to do 2 because we couldn't fit them all in the house. It's 48 lane center. So we do 22 boys teams, 22 girls teams, and we'd have 44 lanes used. So every elementary elementary coach would pick 5 players, 5 boys and 5 girls, and an alternate if they wanted to represent their school. And they could do that through their bowling unit at school. Play a few games. You could go by skill, or you could just go by good behavior. You could go by attendance, whatever you wanted to do, coach. Just send me 5 boys and 5 girls, right? And so we'd get them up to the bowling center. But before we get them to the bowling center to compete, we offered 4 free practice sessions, Tuesday, Thursday after school, for 2 weeks prior to the event, so that they could get familiar, because they're used to bowling with bumpers. We're not doing bumpers. Everything's scratch. It's all Baker. We're going to put them in a format just like we do our high school, because I'm trying to build a farm team, right, for my high school team. And so, yeah, we do those practice sessions. And then we follow that up after the big tournament. We follow that up with a league that bowls Tuesdays and Thursdays right after school. It's a 45-minute to an hour long league, and we get them for 10 weeks, and we build our youth program that way. Over and over and over. So that's how you move them from the gym to the school, because once that Saturday is over. And that Saturday is an event because it's a full house. I think you have a couple of pictures there where I do have a whole bunch of kids. That's our 5th grade tournament. We call that our money shot, because that's a full house. If you see that right there in the middle, you see some flagging, the yellow, red, blue, green flagging. That flagging is all the way down the concourse. And that's the no parent zone. From there to the approach is kids and student volunteers. Everybody behind there is all parents. And you see nobody sitting down. They're all standing up. They're all cheering. And it's great. It's like a collegiate tournament or a high school tournament, because their kids are out there competing. And it's great because it's all Baker, it's all scratch, and it's an elimination tournament. Everybody bowls 2 games. We cut and we start bowling match play, single game elimination. And so although the scores are 50s and 60s, the passion from those parents, tears in their eyes. My kid got 3, yeah. And they're yelling and screaming and having a great time because they want to win. And they win a couple of matches and they go a few rounds. It's electric. So everybody there leaves saying 2 things. I didn't know bowling could be this much fun. I didn't know bowling could be this competitive. And when you do that, and while they're there, you see that crowd. Show that crowd one more time if you don't mind, Fed. You see that crowd, right? Remember I said have something to sell them when you get there? Our staff's walking up and down with raffles, because we need names, addresses, and phone numbers. They can't, the school can't give us that, but we're walking up and down with raffle stuff that we're giving away to capture that information. We're walking around up and down with flyers about that Tuesday and Thursday league that's fixed to start next week. And I guarantee you, we're going to get 30 of these kids to sign up for that league, because that's what we did every year, round and round. So then we're walking around with a birthday. We got a birthday area where people know what we sell for birthday parties, things like that. So whatever you saw all that traffic, right? So
Yeah.
what Jamie would tell people when they ask him, why do you do that? Giving away Saturday lunch, it's like a 4-hour commercial. We literally brought the community, because none of these kids bowl. Most of these families never bowl. So we brought the community into our bowling center for a 4-hour commercial to show them what we do and what we have and how fun and competitive our game can be. And they leave there with a whole new perspective. So that's how you drive them from school to the bowling center.
Yeah, for sure.
And if you're, excuse me, if you're a bowling operator out there and you want tips, call me, jawsb@aol.com or 972-979-1613. I'll help you.
Yeah. So that, kind of harkens to a couple of questions I have, because in order to do that, you've got to be the first believer, right? You've got to be the one who knows that when you get a hold of the physical education teacher, you've got, something that is going to interest them, is going to interest the kids, is going to lead to this tournament, is going to lead to them bowling juniors or even as adults. How did you have that confidence when you started doing this?
Well, I guess because I was a customer all my life. And like I said, I know what a customer wants. And I got that bug early, and I kept it my entire life. My competitive edge never went away. And the only way I'm able to scratch that itch is I'm a high school bowling coach. So I live through my team. That's where I get my competition itched or scratched and all that. But as far as going into a school and talking to them, it was pretty easy for me, because when I first went from running bowling centers to now being a youth director and wanting to go into a school to try to drive traffic, the first thing I did was go to those elementaries, and they allowed me to come in as the professional guest speaker, and I was able to teach these kids how to bowl. You meet all the coaches, and you realize, and you just talk to them, and you realize that they're hungry for education. They're hungry, and so they and I'm watching the coaches on how they conduct their business. And I'm careful not to sell one single thing, because that's what they're used to. People coming in there and selling. I'm not selling nothing. All I'm doing is educating, teaching, encouraging. And I let them ask me, well, do y'all do, field trips, things like that? Well, as a matter of fact, I have this flyer right here. And so you better be prepared, because those kind of questions are coming. If you're not prepared, you're just going to miss the boat. It's just a great opportunity. If you're not prepared, you might as well not do it. But anyway, once I started hanging out with these coaches, I talked to my state association, Texas Bowling Centers Association. I said, hey, I don't know if you know this, but there are PE conventions every year. It's called TAFER, Texas Association of Health, PE, Recreation, and Dance. And what that is they have state meetings once a year, and all PE coaches go to it. Not all of them, but most of them go to it. And while you're there, you can have a booth, because the skating guy's there, the tennis guy's there, the hockey guy's there. We need the bowling guy there. So I've been the bowling guy doing that for over 20 years now. I never miss a state convention, and they send me there to do that. I do it in Texas and Louisiana. There's one right there. That's my son back there, and we're in South Padre Island. That was a nice trip. But you see the carpet there, the ball. My screen is not on there, but right there you'll see some Bowler's Edge stuff. And there's a big room with a whole bunch of coaches going through this area. And so there, all these coaches are going, what's this? What do you mean? You see that banner behind me, bring bowling to your classroom. What's that? So I give them a free curriculum, which if you call the BPAA or the USBC Youth Development, I'll send you as many copies as you want. They have it on notebook, and they have it on flash drive. You can even download it off bowl.com. And you show that to an educator, and they go, wow, that's great. So then the next challenge is connecting the two. My whole goal in life right now is to connect school districts with bowling centers. And the only way I can do that is with this, right? So equipment is always an issue. Law schools don't have the budget to buy their own stuff. So we try to find a bowling center in their general area that will be smart, long range thinking, not short range thinking, and go, if I invest this money and help these folks, we're going to be able to drive traffic through. And if we listen to what some of the people tell us to do and how to do it, we can be successful with it. It's frustrating because many times I've been to bowling operators and they buy equipment and then they give it to schools and they don't follow up. And I'm just pulling my hair out going, what are you doing? You're just missing the boat. And everybody, it's their money. They can do it whatever they want with it and how they want, but it just seems silly that you wouldn't follow up. So we'd go to these PE conventions. We talk to PE coaches, and it's just really easy for me now to find out who your physical education person is. So anybody in the country can call me. I know how to look. I know how to find the people. I'll call them. I speak their language. I can set up a meeting where you and me and them can go visit, and before you know it, you're developing that relationship.
Yeah.
So pretty easy.
How far-reaching has this gotten? I mean, you do stuff in and around Plano, but I've heard that you even go into other states.
Sure. I've been to New York. I've been to California. Been to Wyoming, Florida. Whoever wants me, I'll go. When I worked for USBC, I was a youth development specialist. So there was about 6 of us, and that lasted about 2 years, that program. And USBC would send us out in groups of 2, and we'd go to a city, and that city would have 15 bowling centers. We'd map them out, and we'd set up appointments prior to, and we would go meet those managers or whoever was there, and we'd talk about different programs that USBC had that would help them develop youth bowlers. And so Bowlers Ed was clearly one of them. And I was surprised at how many bowling centers had very small numbers. We have 10 kids. We've got 15 kids. We got 20 kids. I'm used to 250 kids. I'm used to being in bowling centers where there's a lot of kids. And I was just shocked that there weren't more. But it's not their fault, because a lot of operators don't see the value in that, so they don't spend money there. When you walk into a manager's office and you tell them about stuff like this, it's more work. It's more work for them. And what's the ROI and how quick is the ROI? It can be quick if you do some of the things that I've done, but that requires work. I walked into a center one time in Oklahoma, and this lady's behind the counter. She got her cigarette hanging out. What's this going to sell me? What's this going to cost me? I said, time and effort. And I got out of there pretty quick because it was obvious I was not in the place I was going to get that. And so if you don't have the time and the effort, if you don't have somebody that's a little bit passionate about it, it's probably something you should table till later on as a bowling operator, until you have that person. Because you got to have somebody that gives a damn. That give a damn factor has to be there. And if it's not, either by the owner or the manager or a staffer, could be a league secretary, could be a youth director, could be anybody. But if you have somebody that cares a little bit, you can be very successful with that.
Did you ever think you'd get to the point where this has become known enough, what you do has become known enough that a knucklehead in Wisconsin can say, oh, Plano, Texas, that's where Stephanie Johnson's from. Reach out to Stephanie Johnson and say, hey, Luis Benavides is coming on my show, and she comes back with, oh yeah, he's involved with a lot of the school functions and was always a big advocate to get carpet bowling into schools for the exposure to the kids.
Thank you, Steph. Love her. What a bowler. I mean, can you believe, for the cheese, who do you want anybody else? When it really matters, she throws it pure. There's no doubt about that. And I see it because she's always working. She's always working on the game. So I appreciate that, Stephanie. It means a lot. But it's not well known. It's still the best kept secret in the industry. It's promoted by the USBC, and I'm so grateful that they do it, but they're the wrong entity to do it. They are not proprietors. They run the program and they run it well. They do their best. But the bottom line is, whenever I'm talking to USBC people, and believe me, I love them, they don't have an investment in the bottom line. Their job is to promote the game, to watch over the game, to make sure the rules are followed, to make sure that everything's on the up and up, that all of our coaches are RVP'd, want to make sure that we have a good, clean game. The bowling proprietors, whenever I talk to a bowling operator about it, I get a whole different reaction. They perk up. How do I get this done? Who do I need to talk to? Because they understand that can impact their bottom line right away or long term, depending on where they're at. I have this picture of my son and I on a roller coaster in Vegas, and my son is laughing and having a good time in the picture, and I'm like this. And so I use that picture whenever I speak to proprietors, and I say, look, everybody's in a different place. Sometimes you're just cruising like my son here, and sometimes you're tied up in knots like I was that day. But as a bowling operator, listen to this segment about youth bowling, no matter where you are. Because if you're cruising, you might be willing to do something right now. If you're all stressed, this is the last thing you want, because you don't see the revenue from it right away. And I say, listen to it, because at some point in your career, you're going to want to do something like this. So when the timing's right, that operator can go back and go, let's get this done. But right now, across the nation, educators know that there's bowling equipment out there and they can teach bowling. But bowling operators are always the problem. When I was at USBC, we even transitioned from trying to educate the bowling operator, because that's always the stumbling block. You set something up, you go and promote at a state convention for PE coaches, you tell them the name of the bowling center that's in their area, they get home excited and they call it, and the bowling center's like, I don't know what you're talking about, call back. All those things that us as bowling operators do badly. We hire the wrong person to answer the phone, and we don't focus on sales and capturing a number and a name every time. Everybody needs to go listen to Beth Stanley, okay? She's the best teacher of our game in the world today. And if you're an operator, she'll teach you how to hire the right people. But that's frustrating for me when I go talk to a bunch of coaches, get them excited, and then it falls flat when they reach the bowling center. So my goal is to reach as many proprietors as possible, Fef. So anything you can do to help me in that regard, please, because there's a bunch of people out there like me across the country. If you go to bowl.com under Bowler's Ed, you'll see Bowler's Ed Specialist. And there's about 6 of us across the country, all over. And we're all willing to help. None of us are getting paid to do it, but we're passionate about it and we love it. And so we can help you. If you're a bowling operator and want to do something like this, or you know a bowling operator, or you know a school that needs help with equipment, just reach out to any of us, because we'll help connect you with the right people and give you some education. But my hope is to get in front of bowling operators. Anytime I'm in front of a proprietor group, they all have questions, and they're not all buyers at that point, but at some point they will be, because they see the value.
Sure. Yeah. Interesting that you pointed out that there are about 6 of us across the country. I did speak with John Summers this afternoon. He is the founder of LPBT. He said that, and I have a graphic, but I got to this a little late. He said that if we could clone him and have somebody like him in every state, I think youth bowling would take off like a rocket. He said that you've done a tremendous job on the in-school, but you've done more than that too. Now, you're based in Texas. You can get to other states, but, are you really going to come up to Wisconsin? Are you really going to go to Illinois? If you are, that's going to take a lot of effort. John said in Illinois, where he is, there's a man named Bob Damon who teaches Bowler's Ed to college students who are majoring in physical education and methods and things like that. So when they're in the schools, then they can teach those lessons to their students. But he made it sound, like, and you do too, like Illinois and Texas are among the fortunate few. So I guess that begs the question, I don't know if you're the person to answer it, but why aren't more states doing what you're doing?
Because we have not gotten in front of the bowling proprietor group. That's one thing I harped on a lot when I worked at USBC, and I just could never get that done. Anytime I'm able to talk about my 5th grade tournament to a group of proprietors, they get fired up. And so to me, if I'm BPA, I would make that a high priority to get people like myself, like Bob Ray out in Washington on the West Coast, in front of proprietors, because if they hear about the program and they understand the program and you show them how you can make some money, they'll buy. And that's the issue. We have not had the exposure. The PE coaches know about us, but the bowling centers drop the ball, mostly because they don't know about it. But the ones that do, if they're an operator that's doing well in operations, they're going to be fine with this. They're going to love it. We had Randy Thompson was the BPA president for a couple of years, about 3 or 4 years ago, and he had centers in Iowa. He ran my program up there, just killed it with him. Got a friend, Mike Nelson, at in Houston at Copperfield Bowl, where the Lucy is held. He runs his 5th grade tournament at the end of the year, kills them with it. So it's successful anywhere we do it. We just got to do it. So getting that word out. That's why I told my girlfriend I didn't want to come on. I don't have anything to say. And she just kept encouraging me. No, you really need to get your message out there. So a guy like you, Fef, can really help. I'm so grateful that Stephanie chimed in, because she's got a big following for sure. But whether it's a commercial on a PBA telecast or a women's telecast, somewhere, somehow, we've got to get that word out, because if proprietors will hear the message, most will buy. They really will. And John's very kind to say those things. Anything I know is because I've learned from guys like him, I promise you.
Yeah. So obviously you've got the obstacle, the challenge before you. You've got that kind of micro goal of the schools you get into, the schools that take part, that go on to have these 5th grade tournaments, get more people through the door either then or when they become adults. Is there an end goal for you? Do you intend to get to a certain number of schools in a certain number of states, or is it just as many as possible?
It's all of them. I met a lady about 10 years ago. Her name's Melanie Coleman, and she owns a bowling center called Holiday Lanes in Shreveport, Louisiana. We were at a state convention at the Gaylord here in Dallas one year, and she says, I need to meet you. And so she said, let's have lunch. So I had lunch with her, and after the first sentence, I fell in love with this woman. She says, I own a bowling center in Louisiana, and I think I want every kid in the state of Louisiana to be exposed to bowling through Bowler's Ed. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I've finally met somebody that has the same dream and passion I do. And she owns a bowling center, so she's going to be able to help me. And she has. And so ever since that day, I have attended every Layford, Louisiana association of health, recreation, dance, PE, and recreation dance. And so she foots the bill. So every other year, the state association pays my way. The next year, she pays my way. But we never miss. And we go down there. She gives away great door prizes. And all those educators love the bowling guy, because we give away cool stuff and we have a good time. And it's Baton Rouge. Okay, we're going to have a good time. So, I want to do them all. There's no reason why every state association shouldn't be doing that. One of the things that helped, okay, so we all have local associations, right? Our local bowling association. In our area, it's called North Texas USBC. And for years, and they all have funds, right? They all have funds through whatever source they have. They all have funds to spend on the betterment of the game. Well, why aren't they buying carpets and putting them in schools? Well, it's because nobody's asked. So this year, I reached out to Terry Taylor, our North Texas USBC executive director, and I said, hey, would y'all consider this? And he says, hey, tell me about it. So once I did, he says, this is a no-brainer, of course. We'll buy 6 lanes, and you put them whatever school district you want to put them in. So it just so happened that Karen Miller, our executive director at Texas Bowling Centers Association, had reached out and said, hey, we've got this school district in West Fort Worth that is looking for help. Do you think you can spend a little time with them? I said, sure. So I called them and I said, you got any equipment? No, I don't have any equipment. Can you help us? You bet. Terry Taylor bought me 6 lanes. I go take them out there. I do a demo with them, educate their teachers, and they're all happy. And so now is the follow-up. Do the local bowling centers in the west side of Fort Worth follow up with the information I gave them. You know, I want to know if I'm an operator, I want to know what school's teaching it when, so I can follow up with some free game passes. Come out and learn, use what you've learned. You know, if you're an FEC, we do FEC. So instead of a bowling game, they can do an electronic gift card, a slide card for their video games. Here's a $5 free play card. Well, that's going to get every kid in the school to come out. Nothing wrong with that. While they're there, sell them something bowling. Tell them about your youth program if you have one or if you're trying to build one. So your answer to your question, my end goal is to reach them all. And so I know that's not possible, but if you don't reach for the stars, you won't get very far, will you? You got to go. And so I'm an optimist through and through, and I believe that we've got these educators clearly that want to teach our game at no cost to us, and you're reaching the unbowling world, the non-bowling world in your community. And they all have parents, they all have grandparents. And you think about the revenue that youth sports drives in softball, in baseball, in gymnastics, in cheer, and all these other ones, right? Today's parent floods money at whatever their kid's interested in. So if you can't make money, if you can't make money doing this, then you're not doing it very well.
Yeah, for sure. And once in a while, once in a month, a year, maybe even a lifetime, you get somebody like this, right?
Katie. She's my poster child. So Katie came to my 5th grade tournament. You see there in the top left, she's the girl in the green, and her team won. She'd never bowled before. Her team won, which was cool. So she joined that Tuesday-Thursday league that bowled the week after. So there she is in the bottom left in 2016 in the green in the front. So she's bowling for Wilson Middle School. That was one of my farm teams. So then she got to high school. She joined my high school team there in the middle, and she actually won an adult tournament. They let kids bowl in it, and she won that $1,000 scholarship. She averaged 235 as a high schooler, so it's pretty cool. And then, you know, we ended up winning the state title in 2021. And you see her there. Really cool, right? So then she gets some scholarship earnings and goes, she's a smart kid too, right? She's really, really smart. So she had some scholarship money that way, bowling wise for sure. And she went to bowl at Stephen F. Austin in Nacogdoches, Texas. And then, of course, they went on to win a national championship there. So currently she's still at Stephen F. Austin. She's in her senior year. And she just recently was in the Bowlers Journal because she was awarded the Alberta E. Crow Star of Tomorrow. Highest honor in the land that you can get. And Katie is, without a doubt, my poster child. I've had a lot of great kids come through my high school program. Been a bowling coach in high school for 24 years. So seen a lot and had some great kids. But this one has really, really exceeded all of our expectations. And she's wonderful. And she comes home in the summer, works the desk at PSB, and everybody loves her. So pretty cool kid.
Yeah, that's a great story. No, congratulations to her.
Currently, yeah, thank you. I currently have 3 kids bowling collegiately right now. So pretty good.
Pretty good indeed. Yeah. So we are a little over an hour. I want to kind of wrap things up, but as I told you before we went on, I can't wrap things up without this.
Let's go off the sheet. Challenge a bowler to appear on a future episode.
I would like to challenge Will Madison.
I would say Diana Zavulova.
The better Russo, Lauren Russo.
We're looking for anyone who has a passion for the sport and a unique story to tell.
So you said you already had somebody in mind.
You bet. I've been watching your channel. So I would like to challenge Jessica Abel. Jess is the executive director for Bowlers Veterans League, BVL. Everybody knows about BVL. It's a great program that helps veterans. And so she's a collegiate bowler also. She bowled for Wichita State, had a lot of success. She worked with me when I was at USBC. She taught me how to turn my computer on, and she'll tell you that. Heck of a girl, great mom, great wife, neat person. So Jessica, come on with the FEF and tell us a little bit about BVL and all the money you've helped raise.
Yeah, all great stuff. Jessica, if you are willing to take Luis up on his challenge, you can find me on Facebook or email bowlingwiththefef@yahoo.com, and we will make that happen. Luis, I got to ask, did you catch the PBA League Bowler Certification Clash on FS1 a few weeks ago?
No, I did not. Tell me about it.
Well, if you read about it, then you probably found out that the winner, if you didn't see the telecast or were in Maine to see it, was a 17-year-old high school senior who is bound for Jacksonville State University, where the O'Keeffes are. And her name is Gianna Brandolino.
Other picture, yes.
Yeah, in that eliminator format, she took down Chris Prather in the finals. Just a tremendous performance on one of the biggest stages out there. Well, a couple months ago, a young man from my area named Trey Henriksmeyer came on, and he challenged Gianna to come on Bowling with the Fef. And as luck would have it, she is taking him up on his challenge. So Monday night, October 21st, 7 p.m. Central, Gianna will be on. She'll tell us all about that magical run at the LBC Clash, along with the rest of her bowling story. Hope everyone has a chance to see it live or at least on replay. Luis, it has been a pleasure getting to know you and your bowling story. Give us your contact information one more time in case anybody's interested in bowlers.
You bet. My phone number is 972-979-1613. Call me anytime. Text me. If I don't answer, I will get back to you right away. My email is jaws, like the shark, jawsb@aol.com. Fef, if you don't mind, I'd like to say one more thing, if that's okay.
Please.
The only reason I've had any kind of success is my relationship with Jesus Christ. I'm a member of Bible Study Fellowship, BSF. It's a national organization that teaches the God's Word. And without that grounding, without His Holy Spirit just indwelling me and helping me, I wouldn't have the outlook and the attitude to help people like I do. And I'm so grateful, and I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that.
Yeah. Well, thank you for that. I'm glad. And thanks so much for the time. Like I said, I mean, not everybody loves to do this, and I know you had your reservations, but I'm really glad you came on.
I'm glad she talked me into it. Thank you, Nancy.
And thanks to everyone out there watching live and on replay. Until Monday, have a great week.
Thank you for watching Bowling with the Fef. Pound the like button and subscribe button. It's the easiest way to support the channel, and it's free. Bowling with the Fef is brought to you by Chip Magnet. Raise your snack standards. Email bowlingwiththefef@yahoo.com with questions or to appear on the show. You can also reach out on your favorite social media platform.